Testing. Alright. So, whoa, it's another video without a face cam. I mean, y'all know my camera quality isn't the best, but anyways, let's just forget about that. This video, as you can see from the thumbnail, is gonna be talking about Spider-Man 2. And damn, bro, I haven't been this excited for a game since the original Spider-Man 2018. I counted down the days, 100 days each, and it took long, but yo, that game was worth it. But this video is less of praising and more of things I want to see improve, because this game needs to be a 10 out of 10, you know? The first two Spider-Man games were really good, but there's also a lot of areas they could be improved. So if they get it right this game, then things are looking up, man. Gaming is actually, gonna be nice. They're actually gonna use the PS5 instead of porting games to that damn PS4 with its 30 FPS. So I'm gonna be talking about the improvements I want in 3 sections. One is traversal, obviously, the best part of Spider-Man games. Second is combat, and I'm just gonna be lumping stealth and bosses in there too. And the last is story, which I don't think I'll expand on that too much, because obviously we don't know a lot about the story yet, but I'm gonna just get into it before things get boring. Now, what's the first thing you think of when you think of Spider-Man? It's probably the fucking web swinging, and it definitely needs some improvements. I'm not saying I hated the web swinging, I actually love the web swinging, but now that I look at it, it could be so much better in the next game. We could have a much better experience. My biggest complaint with the web swinging, for the past 5 years, has always been the speed. It just feels slow, man. It feels like there's a point where you just stop gaining speed when you should be gaining speed, and you end up feeling mad slow. You can dive from the top of the Empire State Building or the Avengers Tower, and your web swinging just caps at a speed that's fast enough so that you don't feel bored or anything, or too bored, but it's slow enough that you're damn, I wish it was faster, And something you may have seen a lot of people complaining about is the realism, because they want the physics-based web swinging back. And I'm saying, that would be pretty cool, I'm pretty sure I saw something about them adding an advanced swinging mode and a normal swinging mode. So the normal swinging mode is for those people that can't swing, because damn, the amount of Spider-Man gameplays I've seen where people just don't know how to swing properly is appalling, bruv. It's really disgusting, innit? But I assume that the advanced swinging mode would be based on a more physics-based system. So you actually feel the weight of Spider-Man, you actually gain speed, but you can also make mistakes. Because in the original games and the Spider-Man Miles Morales, the biggest complaint a lot of people had, now that I've seen recently, is that the web swinging is too controlled. It assists you too much, You feel like every time you make a mistake, you're not actually punished for it. The game just gets you out of that mistake with some animation. And sometimes it can look clunky, when you're about to hit the ground, but then Spider-Man just double jumps and manages to escape it. Or when you're swinging and you accidentally miss a turn or you hit a building, and instead of stopping or slowing down, Spider-Man just does some weird flip over everything and messes you up in the process, So what I'd really like to see is more realistic swinging. There's still gonna be that controlled swinging for those people that just don't know how to swing, or if you're just feeling lazy. But it should also make it feel more realistic with the advanced mode. Because at the end of the day, after playing Spider-Man for a bit, it feels less like you're playing as Spider-Man, controlling the web swinging, as more as Spider-Man's just doing his own thing and you're just pressing R2, you're just there along for the ride, So as a lot of people have said, including me just now, I want to have more control over the swing and actually feel like I'm making the decisions myself. Obviously, they can't give us too much power because, not Spider-Man. I can't be doing calculations in my head while aiming. But what I'd like to see is web swinging that punishes you for your mistakes. For example, if you hit a building or something, you lose momentum. Or when you swing on the ground, you start running along the floor instead of just double jumping. But I also like to see web swinging that rewards you for doing it correctly, when you get the angle just right, you go mad fast, you get a lot of momentum. And another thing I'd like to see is just more animations from the swinging. Now, I'm less concerned about animations than about the actual swinging itself, but I do want to see a bit more style from Peter, some exaggerated swagger of a black teen from Miles Morales. But yeah, let me stop on this before I go on for too long, and let's talk about the new map. Now, my geography is notoriously bad, so I had to look up a map of New York. Is New York a city or a state or both? mean, I don't know, but besides that, all I know is that Spider-Man 2018 and Spider-Man Miles Morales took place in the same place, which is Manhattan.
This whole lizard hunt ends now!
From what I remember, Miles Morales
Leave Connors alone!
but he's from Brooklyn. And next game, apparently, Brooklyn and Queens are areas available. I think some islands are going to be available. I don't know about that. Although I just looked it up, and Bronx and Staten Island are going to be in there. So we'll see what the new map will be like. But Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens together is going to give us a massive area to explore. Like massive. I'm looking at this map right now. It's huge. So I don't know how many side missions, side quests they're going to be, but I hope there's quite a few. But I'm also kind of scared because on the one hand, I mean, I'm fine with collecting backpacks and stuff, but I don't want to have to collect like 500 backpacks over that huge area that I just saw because, damn, the map's going to be big, bro. And I also hope the NPCs are a bit more alive and the side quests are a bit more, you know, like nice and stuff, seeing as the areas are going to be different. And also a nice little feature they added is that the people
the hunters
inside
track
the
Connors to the
so
Harlem
whenever
Fish
you're
Market.
just running around and you can actually see the people.
I'm on it.
Inside the
Sounds
building,
like
which is
Craven's
pretty
checking
cool.
off his.
We don't have
And
much
if y'all
time.
watch my last video, you'd see that they added a web
guess
glider
we'll chat later?
to the game. And that's actually one I wanted to talk about because from what I see, Queens is more of a residential area than Manhattan.
Yankee,
So it
the
seems like
lizard's
we're gonna
loose
have
at
to
the
use
fish
the web
market.
glider more
Must
there
be
because the
sushi
buildings
night.
are gonna be
You still
quite
got that
low,
hunter
so it
drone
might
you
be more
hijacked?
difficult to swim
Been really
towards
tough hiding it from my
that
mom, but
business
yeah,
area like
I'll boot up
Manhattan.
and see you there.
As for Brooklyn, I won't lie to you, I don't know what Brooklyn looks
They
like,
got here
but
fast.
hey man, yeah, we'll talk about that later, don't worry about that. Now our next section that we'll be covering is the combat. And to be honest, I have a kind of a little bit to say here. I don't want to make this video too long though, so I'm going to just try to make it concise. And the first thing I want to talk about is I just replayed Spider-Man 2018. And what I noticed there was the combat is kind of repetitive, you know, like at first it's like, you know, you're beating people up. And then eventually it's more like there's really nothing to do but press like square and circle, you know. I tried to add a little spice into the combat by like doing air combat, throwing people to the ground and stuff. But since Peter doesn't have any powers other than like super strength, it's really not that spicy, you know. Like, no offense to my boy Peter, but they really gotta spice the game up, which is why I'm excited for the Venom, because it's gonna add a new level to his combat. And from what I've seen in the trailer, Peter's starting to not pull his punches, because the way he was punching those, you could feel the impact when he was punching Craven's guys. Now, they definitely improved this a lot with Miles Morales, you know, Spider-Man Miles Morales, because obviously he has the Venom, which adds a new layer to his combat. My favorite perk in that game was the one where you build up a combo and it spreads Venom to people. That was just really nice and fun. But I want to see them add a bit more, like a few more moves, you know, a bit more pizzazz. Although the Venom really upped the combat a notch, and I really don't see any motivation to play Peter unless they really change his combat up, because I don't want to like say anything wrong about him, but playing Miles Morales just seems so fun in the trailer, like more fun than playing Venom Peter. Although it's a good thing that the combat is changed up now, you know, get a little variation. And this is particularly why the thing I'm probably most excited for in this game is not the web swinging, not the bosses, not the story, it's the skill tree. Because now that Peter and Miles have new abilities and new traversal techniques, the skill tree better go crazy, you know? But another big problem I had with Spider-Man, which is less so of a problem kind of in Spider-Man Miles Morales, is the boss fights. They were just kind of, I mean, the two nice boss fights were, Martin Lee's boss fight were pretty good. I don't want to include Otto's boss fight because while it wasn't as flashy, it had a bigger emotional impact. But the boss fight I probably liked the most, even though I died like 20 times, was Finn's boss fight. Because it made you feel a little less like you're just repeating a pattern of moves and more like you're actually like trying, struggling here. You know, it's Spider-Man doing his daily physical and mental struggle, trying to beat this person, this really strong person, and all the odds are against him, but he still has to try hard because nobody else can. No, I just want a boss fight that makes you feel like you need to use your whole arsenal, and less like you can get away with pressing X. I mean, my bad, I'm thinking of Xbox. It makes you feel less like you can get away with spamming square the whole time, and more like you actually need to use all the abilities and gadgets that you've gotten over the time in order to defeat the boss. Because now that I think about it, in Spider-Man 2018, boss fights like Shocker and Rhino and You know, those bosses just made you feel like you just had to do the same thing over. It was easy. I don't want to mention Electro and Vulture because that actually was kind of deep. The fact that Spider-Man had 14 broken bones and he was still out here 2v1ing in the sky when he can't even fly. So that was kind of deep. Though this video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to speed it up a bit. What I really want them to improve as well is the stealth, because let's face it, the AI in this game is pretty fucking retarded. I do want them to add a bigger variety. They did that in Miles Morales with the enemies that could scan you and that. But the AI is just so dumb that it feels less like you're a sneaky spider person and more like you're just exploiting a bunch of mentally retarded army veterans. Although this part I'm not too worried about because the combat needs to be better than the stealth. At some point the stealth caps out when you add like web lines and that little gadget that we saw Miles use. It's more like, oh wow, the stealth is good, the stealth is perfect, but I still want to run hands, you know? Like, the stealth can't be better than the actual combat unless it's like Assassin's Creed or something. I'm also really excited to see the gadgets, you know? I mean, I'm not that excited, but now that I think about it, I should be more excited because the gadgets could really change up the combat in that. But let me just move on to the last part, which is the story. And there's another important point in here that I want to mention. Now, Spider-Man 2018 really had a good story, and I feel like I appreciated it more on the replay, because now that I think about it, not only did Peter get beat up to death nearly 2 times, but he had to take out his mentor, who he saw like a father, seeing as his is dead. His aunt died, and he had to make the tough decision not to save her, and he almost did. You know, kind of had to accept the fact that he lost basically like almost everyone he loved. He had like no family left, and he still had to go out fighting even when the city was in a crisis and he was probably stressing out. So it was really deep to see how Spider-Man's life really works and how being a superhero isn't just all fun and games. It's actually like deep. Bro, the way that boss fight against Otto got me, I was like, damn, bro, that was deep. You know, I shed a whole tear when Aunt May died. It was a single tear, but a tear nonetheless. And what I really think will be interesting in the next game is, obviously everybody's been thinking about it, Peter and Miles are probably going to have a boss fight. And what's really interesting about that to me is the fact that Peter lost his family, lost his mentor, lost his job. He lost everything. And that venom that he just got in the new game will probably amplify all those feelings. So I want to see how Peter deals with it and how his emotions are amplified once the venom makes him realize that he's basically lost everything he cares about. And still some people in New York don't even appreciate him, like J. Jonah Jameson and the rest. I also saw somebody say they didn't really like Miles and Miles Morales because he felt kind of bland. And I'll say I haven't really played Miles Morales in a bit, so I'm going to replay it now. But I can't really remember that well. I didn't have too many problems with it. I mean, the thing I was mainly focused on is running around singing and beating people up, so I wouldn't really think about that. Although I will say the story for Miles Morales was a bit too short, so maybe Miles Morales would have been a more fleshed out and better character if the game was longer. And the second important point, the last point I wanted to talk about, was his face. I mean, in the Spider-Man PS4 version, you could see his face. He's been doing Spider-Man stuff for 8 years, stressed out, getting beat up, being tired every day. His face makes him look like he's a veteran, like he's tired and sleep deprived, but he's still doing what he has to. And his new face just looks young and robotic. Maybe they'll make it look better, but it's been confirmed that his old face is never coming back. So that's kind of sad for me, but I'll see what Insomniac does with the new face. Hopefully they make it look better, because now he just looks less like Spider-Man and more like Spider-Boy. Especially in like the Doc Ock scene when you finally defeated him, you could see on Peter's old face, you can see every emotion on his face that he's going through. I feel like he literally looks perfectly how I imagine Spider-Man. Now that I've seen him, he literally looks exactly like what I think Spider-Man should look like. But I really hope they make the new face work better in the new game. You know, since it's not coming back, I might as well just accept that his new baby face is here to stay. So to summarize it all up, the web singing needs to be faster, more realistic, you know. They definitely need to add some more features. They need to make the boss fights better, improve the stealth. I'm excited to see that skill tree, though I won't lie to you, I'm actually very excited. They also need to add a bit more variation and also make it feel less bullshitty where the enemies are only stronger than you just because they have to be. Like Spider-Man can lift 10 tons, but a guy that's bigger than the average person can somehow stop his punches and that. And also, I won't complain about the story too much because it definitely has a lot of potential and we haven't heard anything about it. So there's nothing to, reference it off of. But anyways, that's all with the video done. you know, as you can tell, I'm mad excited for this game. It's coming out in like 100 days, so I'm hyped up. I'm ready to pre-order. I'm ready to play and that. But anyways, I won't waste your time. This video was a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but without any further ado, y'all have a nice day. Peace.